it's Obi Chukwumah of Space&Equity. We're all about increasing assets and creating new space. Today, I'm very excited to have the most important person in my life on the show with us. We're going to start a series with Danielle Chukwumah, Dr. Letitia Danielle Chukwumah.
My whole government name?
The whole government name. She's a mommy, she's a wife, she's a friend and a daughter and a doctor and now an entrepreneur. And all of those things she does humbly, she does with excellence, but loves to do it behind the scenes. So this was a great work to get her on camera. Tell the people, hello, beautiful.
Hello.
So what we want to do is, oftentimes when there's an entrepreneurial feat taking place, there's a whole team around that. But then there's key players to the team. So for a quarterback, his center, his Jeff Saturday to Peyton Manning, your favorite.
Yes.
And what I wanted to do is take an opportunity to highlight all the things that you bring to the table. We can't do Space&Equity without our backbone, but our backbone has a frontline story. So with that, we're gonna delve into the life of Danielle McDougal, now Chukwumah, putting all the names out there.
This man don't stop putting all my business in the street.
It is what you're on camera now. This is gonna be on the gram, this is gonna be on YouTube. So what I wanna start with, we can get to the dating part. In fact, let's start there. Tell them about how we started from your vantage.
You set me up.
I set you up?
Yes.
How's that?
You and T Weezy. Mm-hmm. So we were in the same dorm for summer school.
2001, summer 2001, July.
Yes. And we were all gathered in the basement, having a conversation about, dating. Uh-huh. And how brothers didn't take sisters out for real dates anymore. Yeah. You guys thought it's a date because you used your meal card in the cafeteria.
Real money? Did you have to tell me, if we used our meal card on you, how did that impact your pocket? And tell me how that's not an exchange.
It was helpful.
Okay. So keep it going.
That's not a date.
All right.
Okay.
So what was a date? How did we do the setup?
So as we were having this conversation, T Weezy came in and said, "Oh, but y'all don't know how to be treated. Like y'all don't want to be treated nice. You say that, but you never liked the nice guy." And he specifically pointed me out and was like Danielle, if my boy Obi here tried to holler at you and wanted to take you out on a date, you wouldn't even go. Because he's the nice guy. And then would. I said I would go. I was like, that's entirely not true. I would go. Yeah. And so then T was hyping you up like, all right, ask the lady out. And so you asked me out on a date.
Yep.
And I said yes.
And then we go from there. And y'all, I spent good money on that date. I went and got a new outfit, Lucky 32s. What movie we go see?
Baby Boy.
Baby Boy. So our first date was Baby Boy. Then I bought you that Alicia Keys CD.
Yes.
And then we were off to the races? Not quite.
No, not quite.
What happened?
I mean, there was unequal liking.
Yeah. You liked me more than I liked you?
Bruh. It got there. But no, it was you.
Yeah.
And you were a lot.
Yeah.
You poured it on thick.
Okay.
Like by the second date, you were already talking about, I care about you. And I was like, hold up, brother, you don't even know me. And so I just was kind of leery. And plus I knew what was up. And then the other thing, this would not fly in this Me Too movement today.
So then don't bring it up. Jeez, you trying to put me out there.
So, we had some incidents where I knew what you were trying to do. You were trying to put the moves on the system. And I just felt like, oh, he doing the most. And once I give him the cookie, then he won't be interested anymore.
And B notes, I was a gentleman the whole time. Yes, there were certain things that I desired as a young man, but I would never
Absolutely
cross
not.
lines. Okay?
Okay, now that we have made that clear.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and so then you had to stay at school because you had like practice. You had 2 a days, or whatever. And I was done with school, so went home. And then I was calling you to, I don't know, I was going to a concert or celebrating my birthday, and you kind of blew me off like it was dry.
Let's put some context behind that. I wake up at 5:30, start practice and finishes at about 9:30. So I was a little tired. So I wasn't blowing you off. I was just tired. I was surprised to hear from you because of that unequally yoked part of the relationship. I thought that you weren't feeling me, but apparently you were because you called me.
I did. I called you. So then that was off-putting for me. Like, oh, so it's like that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool.
So she comes back to campus. We start the football season 2-0. All of a sudden, she likes her brother.
You better get out of here with that. Stop it.
Starting free safety, dropping interceptions, but balling out there anyways. So, then what?
Oh, I got sick.
Yeah.
Okay, so what ended up happening was that I got diagnosed with migraines. But before that, I had not had migraines. And I didn't know what it was. All I knew was my head was hurting really bad and I couldn't stop like throwing up.
Yeah.
And just couldn't get out of bed. And this guy, he took care of me. Like he came and sat in an uncomfortable desk chair next to my bed all night to tend to me, whether it was to help me get up and go to the restroom or to, hold the trash can so I could throw up in the trash can. He, sat and made sure that I was okay. It got to the point ultimately where you ended up taking me to the emergency room and I got hospitalized.
And we got your first set
days.
of doctor bills that we dealt with, and 2 years later in our marriage.
I had no insurance.
I didn't know about those things, but so we start dating September 2021, and we've been together ever since. But there's a backstory we have to tell. So we're both at Wake Forest University. Tell us why you chose Wake and when you decided that you were going to be a doctor.
Okay. Now that's so long ago, I can't even tell you all the specifics of why I chose Wake. But I was originally from North Carolina, so I was selecting North Carolina schools. And I wanted, to be in the best place that I could be. So Wake was one of my dream schools that I applied to, the other being Duke. And Wake gave me a little money, so
Yeah.
Wake it was.
Yeah.
Great quality school, opportunity of a lifetime, and some scholarship money.
Okay.
So that was how I chose Wake. I knew I wanted to be a doctor from the time I was 5 years old. And that experience came from a pediatrician visit. I don't know that there was anything for anyone else on the outside looking in that was so special about it, but it was really special to me because my pediatrician was explaining everything to me as he was doing, like each move he did for the physical, or while he was looking in my eyes, he was explaining what he was doing and what he was looking for, what those things meant. And I was just 5 years old. And I remember how I felt. And so from that day forward, I wanted to do what he did. And it wasn't just about that. I knew how I felt, and I said, well, I want to make people feel the way that he made me feel.
Wow. Do you remember that pediatrician's name?
Dr. Burrows.
You need to look him up. Hope he's still with us.
He is not, as far as I know. I know I had looked him up some years ago, like after retirement, but yes, Dr. Burrows. I definitely remember his name.
So he's passed away, is what you're saying? Oh man, well, I would have loved to have met him.
And he was well known, especially in the black community in Raleigh.
Wow, he left an indelible print on your life.
Absolutely, and I never got the opportunity to go back and tell him that.
So 5 years old, for you, life was definitely not a crystal stair. So tell me about 5 to 18 and the obstacles you dealt with and how that shaped you.
Oh,
Who you are
we'd be
today.
here all day for all that.
Okay.
But, in summary, I was raised by a single mother who often worked multiple jobs. And so I had to take on maybe more responsibility than some of my peers did.
Okay.
I had a younger sister who was about almost 9 years younger than I, so taking care of her, doing her hair, maybe getting her ready for school or picking her up from school, preparing our meals and stuff in the evenings because my mom often worked nights too. So there was a lot of responsibility that went along with that. And, my mom being a single mom, we were poor.
Yeah.
Long and the short of it is we were poor. So things were difficult. We lived in a rough neighborhood. Now, I enjoyed it. I was amongst my people, so I felt like I was at home. But there was a lot of exposure to things that maybe you wouldn't want your kid exposed to.
Yeah.
So
Like cleaning up stairwells from human feces.
yes,
Okay.
things of that nature.
Yeah. But everybody in the neighborhood. So your mom's a single mom, but your dad's in your life. How does that relationship, how did you interact with him in those years?
Well, that's complicated. There are layers to it. So, when you say my dad was present, we may have different definitions of present. And even today, his definition of present and mine don't necessarily line up.
Gotcha.
So he was around for, holidays and things like that. But my dad was in the streets.
Okay.
Oftentimes we lived in different cities or different states. And he was living a different lifestyle, so he wasn't present on the day-to-day. I may not have even had his phone number. There were times where I didn't have a direct way to contact my dad.
Yeah.
I knew I could tell someone, hey, that I was looking for him, or my mom knew she could tell someone that we were looking for him, and then he would get in contact with us. But
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you were poor. You go to college at Wake Forest University, a private university, not a cheap university, and you had a full ride to NC State, ECU, Carolina as well?
no, just NC State and ECU.
Okay. And you
But even a partial at Chapel Hill would have been a lot cheaper than
So you passed down a partial at Chapel Hill, a great state school.
No, I was waitlisted at Chapel Hill.
Oh, okay. You and I had something in common. We both wanted to go to Chapel Hill.
I didn't want to go to Chapel Hill.
Well,
it was just
with the story. You're
from
messing up
North
the
Carolina.
flow.
If you're from North Carolina, you're gonna apply to
Yeah,
UNC Chapel Hill.
Anyway, so you end up choosing Wake Forest, which at the time was this is 1999, and it was already close to $40,000 a year. And you got a partial scholarship. What, 70%, 75%? Something like that.
I don't even know.
And so how did that impact you while you're at school? What'd you do to make the gap fill? Besides student loans, I
had to work.
You had to work.
Had to hustle. I did what I had to do. I probably did a little too much. I was working almost 40 hours a week.
Wow.
But also carrying an 18 credit hour caseload. I say caseload, but course load.
Course load.
So that was too much. But at the time, I felt like it was what I needed to do so that I didn't have to struggle financially at school. So I could have money for books, so that I could eat for the whole school year and not have my meal plan run out. So that I could put gas in my car so that I could get to work. Maintain my car, pay car insurance.
So you're doing that with full course load, pre-med. You're a Spanish major, but also pre-med. And working 40 hours a week impacts the ability to study. You don't have exactly the ideal GPA for somebody applying to med school.
No.
So then what?
I failed chemistry like my first year at Wake. That was tough. That was a tough transition. So when applying to medical school, a lot of schools require that you have a letter of recommendation from your pre-med committee. So Wake's pre-med committee, they would follow you during the course of your years. You'd meet around the time that you were going to apply, and they would give you a confidence rating for their confidence in your ability to be successful in medical school. And mine was no confidence in your ability to be successful in medical school.
Take that, Wake. And maybe that's why she don't give you no money today. Anyways, just.
But you do, so same thing.
I don't give them real money, so.
So yeah, that being said, there were a lot of people who heard, I have no confidence in you being able to be successful in completing med school, and they changed the course of what they were going to do. They elected to do something different. They were no longer pre-med. They were going to get a master's degree in public health. They were going to do a year of research. But for me, I was like, I'm all in. I had never done a thing where I had started and didn't finish. So if it came to having to pivot and do all those things, then I would if I had to. But I hadn't heard from a school that they wouldn't take me. So I proceeded with my plan, and I went ahead and applied anyway.
Okay. So you applied. What'd you do after application? They told you no confidence. You shouldn't apply for med school. You told them, this is what I'm doing. Y'all can shovel it. So what was next?
So then I didn't get into any medical schools.
Well.
As you can imagine. But I got offers for post-baccalaureate programs from Ohio State University.
The Ohio State University.
The Ohio State University. And you're from Columbus, so there was also that connection there. And then also from Wake Forest. And so a post-baccalaureate program, it depends. Some places it's 1 year, some places it's 2 years. But it gives you the opportunity to prove that you can do the level of work for medical school, that you can take multiple science and math courses at the same time, and you can handle it. So ultimately, we decided to go with Wake. There were a number of reasons. Part of that was you were still in school, and you had like another semester, so like the whole picking up and transitioning to another state, not very practical. Also, Wake was what we knew. And even with that, there were some issues there too, because I also knew that we had a lot of negative experiences related to race at Wake, and I knew that was not going to stop staying. But at the same time, that was the evil that I already knew and felt like I had learned to navigate. So we said, Wake it is.
So we said, Wake it is. You breezed through the post-baccalaureate program, doing an excellent job. You and your cohort, there's some friendships that still are maintained as a result of y'all's camaraderie there. And then you apply again to Wake, you get into Wake, you get into ECU, and you decide to stay with Wake Forest University. On a side note, we were trying to stay together. I was thinking about the NFL, it didn't work out. That was tough. But now we had roots in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So you're going to med school. I'm starting my banking career. And first day, was it the first day of med school? You run into some
I don't know if it was the
roadblocks.
first day, but it was very close. I think it was like during that first week, like orientation. Orientation. A little roadblock, a little incident that seemed to kind of set the stage for other things to happen. We were in lines next to each other. Essentially, they were going through like your file to say what things you had not completed and that needed to be completed. And for me, I had not had my physical seen the physician because I didn't have insurance. I was waiting on your...
Oh, yeah, just started at BB&T.
Yes.
Waiting for that to kick in. So it started in July of 2004. Orientation is early August. So we're just waiting. And it was literally July 20th. So we're waiting for that to kick in.
Right. And so I had not gone to the doctor. I was waiting for that, and then I would go to the doctor and complete these tests. So I'm telling the lady this in line. I'm like kind of whispering because, I'm embarrassed and it ain't nobody's business. So I'm like, yeah, I know I haven't gotten that done, but I have an appointment coming up. I just need it for my insurance to kick in. And then she started talking out loud. She wasn't yelling, but just out loud. And I was trying to keep my voice down. Talking about how I had had months to prepare for this and had should have made plans.
Woman, I didn't have insurance. Okay, jeez.
So at that point, I was like, it's just like a HIPAA violation or something. Like, why are you talking about my personal business? In front of other people because there were lines next to me. And at this point, we're talking loud enough so people can see. So I left the line. I was embarrassed. I was upset, but went ahead. But apparently she went to one of the deans and said something about it. And so then that came back to me through a dean, essentially saying that like they had heard that I was rowdy, I was a troublemaker, and that wasn't going to be tolerated there. Then I was placed in a problem-based learning group, which is common in medical school. You get in these groups, and then you get cases, you try to figure out what's going on with the patient, how to treat it, and you do it in a small group setting. And it's led by a member of medical faculty. Well, in my case, the faculty member that led mine was a famous surgeon. And he was, like I said, famous, well-renowned, well-respected, loved by many.
Well-aged.
Well-aged, yes. White male. And in this case, the case was about sickle cell. And he asked me to tell them about sickle cell. That question, innocent, like, what have you read about it? Maybe what you think about that. But it was followed up with, what's been your experience
Because every black person has experience with sickle cell.
So I'm looking like, he got me mixed up with somebody else. I was like, I don't have any experience with sickle cell. I don't have many family members that have sickle cell. And then, he was pressing the issue. Oh, I do know somebody with sickle cell. D-Boss from TLC. And so, like, nope, I don't know her personally, but that's literally the only person I know that has sickle cell. So, kind of a joke, but you could tell he was annoyed by it. And I was also annoyed too, like, what you asked me that foolery for? And then you could see in the small group, there were some people who felt uncomfortable, but nobody spoke up and said anything. So then after that, we had another encounter where he was essentially saying, I wasn't laughing at some of these off-color and off-putting jokes. Just wasn't appropriate, wasn't my scene. I'm just there to do my work. And so he asked me to stay after class, and he met with me and told me this story about being friends with Jesse Helms, former racist senator from North Carolina.
Yes.
I guess letting me know he was well connected and he knew people and people knew him, and that had the opportunity to help a black man who kind of worked in the service industry type thing, but they helped him go to pilot school to get his pilot license. So then he had able to come up in his station and be a pilot and fly them. And so then it was like, well, why are you telling me this story? I know why you're telling me this story. This is, you're letting me know, play nice, and I can do
right by you.
Yeah. And it didn't sit well with me. Not because I didn't want to play nice. I just wanted to be. I wanted to be like everybody else. I wanted to come there to get my education and not have this extra layer where I have to make you feel comfortable. When every day you're making me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. So you were being taught how to navigate white supremacy directly from the source, and they wouldn't claim it to be such, but really it's a matter of knowing your place and playing the game right. And you didn't quite have all the tools to play the game right.
No. I was not mentally prepared for that. And I say that when I say that, I was mentally prepared to persevere. I was mentally prepared to, be strong and to keep my head up, but not to play chess and to play mind games. I just thought, come do what I came to do. Come correct.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to do. But it wasn't, I needed to know how to play the game, and I didn't, and I was at a disadvantage. And then I had to experience what came along with that.
Wow. So you had some advice from a colleague, but that had a little bit more experience than you. What was that advice, and what do you see now? Back then you couldn't see what she meant, but what do you see now?
I mean, I can't remember her exact words, but it was essentially, pipe down, pimping, like, play it cool.
Yeah, you're not going to win this way.
Yeah, give them what they want. Smile, and then you can stick it to them when you get to the finish line.
There you go.
Yeah. But there was a part of me. Not only did I not want to, I didn't know how to do that. I had always lived very authentic. Like that was all I knew. And so that was what I felt like I needed to do. I was like, playing games, that's not authentic. That's not true to self. That's not true to anybody. Why would you want to do that and create extra work? So no, I was not able to do that at all.
Knowing what you know now, what would you present to somebody you're mentoring in a similar situation like yours?
I wouldn't be able to tell them exactly what to do because everybody's situation is different, and it really matters what matters to you, what your values are. For me, in that circumstance, if I could do it over again, I would have confirmed what I already was kind of feeling, like this is not the place for me. This is not a good environment, and applied somewhere else. Tried to do an alternative thing. Like I knew this was not going to be a good experience, but I also felt kind of trapped too, because now even though it's early, there's already been this talk about me being a troublemaker or being rowdy, and amongst well-renowned faculty, some of the deans. So then if I try to go to another place, they'll communicate. So I also felt like I need to stay.
Dig through it, drive through it. And that's often the Black experience, is that we just persevere. We trudge through all type of difficult, in some cases, miserable situations for the sake of finishing the drill.
Yeah, but you really do have to put yourself first. Those experiences contributed to me, like I became very hard, angry, felt like I always needed to be on the defensive. And if I had it to do all over again, I would have done something differently with that piece of the puzzle, because that wasn't going to get me what I needed either. Now, I had been able to use that in the past to drive myself to accomplish things and do things when people didn't think I could. But this was a new game, and you couldn't apply the same rules. But I wasn't aware.
So we're going to dig a little bit further into med school. And second year med school, we decide, hey, let's have a baby. Who had that bright idea?
You.
I did?
Yes.
Was that me?
That was you.
I want the baby. So this is 2005. A couple things happened since first year. One is we got a statement about the level of student loans you had. And I got really scared because the figure was over 100,000 from undergrad, and the first year of med school alone was like 55,000.
I didn't have over 100 from.
Here's where we started. Remember, I'm the guy who does the bills. It's a total of 128,000 from undergrad and the first year of med school.
Okay.
So we're like, a pivot needs to happen. So the pivot we agreed upon was the United States Air Force.
Yes.
So the United States Air Force comes in, they pay for the remaining 3 years of med school. Only 3 years because we had a total of 5, but we'll talk about that. They pay for the remaining 3 years of med school, and the commitment to them was 7 years in return, meaning 4 years of
Well, it's residency.
And then an additional 3 years.
So really what they cared about was the 3 years active duty.
Yeah.
You could potentially do residency elsewhere, but they were going to feel their need first.
Yeah. So you're tackling so much. You got the trauma that exists in the med school experience tackled, accomplished. Got your MD. Air Force, you sail through that process for 7 years with multiple moves, successfully performing that. We go from 1 child to 3 children. You get your dream home. You're in civilian life. Then what?
So then I'm living the dream. I have my dream job with the best coworkers and work family ever. I'm making more money than I had ever anticipated making. I have my dream home. I have my family. I have everything that I thought was what I wanted. I checked every box, but somehow I still didn't feel fulfilled. And that put me in an awkward place because I'd spent my life essentially putting all my eggs in this basket. I wanted to be a doctor. Everything I did, I sacrificed was to get to the point of being a doctor. And now I'm that, but then come to the realization that there's more to the story. That's not what it's meant to be. I'm not meant to just be a doctor. That's part of who I am. That's what I do, but that's not who I am.
Then you have a life partner who is zeroed in on what he wants from the world and said, come on, we're going to do X, Y, Z, ABC, all above. Now you're an entrepreneur. What does that look like for you? Scooter's Coffee, Space&Equity, and everything in between.
I can say I am happy to be on the journey. But I've come a long way, even in the brief time we've been doing this. It was tough. Of course, that's your entrepreneurial spirit. You've always been able to dream big. These were qualities that I loved about you. You know, you always knew that the corporate world wasn't going to be the end for you. And so those were all things I loved, But then they suddenly became all the things I was afraid of. Because I am big on security. So it's a difficult transition when you look at it from that perspective. But the other thing that has helped me was looking at what I could learn from you. Because in this transition, like I said, I knew I wasn't fulfilled, but I hadn't figured out what it is that I want. And honestly, I still haven't fully figured that out. But being able to go on this journey with you teaches me about figuring out what I want, about demanding what I want, and having confidence that I can do whatever it is that I choose. So, it's tough in a lot of ways because our sensibilities are different. You're more of a risk taker. I am not. But I'm happy to be on the journey and learning so much from you.
We're on the journey absolutely together. I couldn't do it without you because I walked away from the corporate job, but I can't walk away from the corporate job without both your emotional support and, be truthfully, the financial stability that you bring to the table.
I won't say nothing, but I'm glad you said it.
I know the cash flow is still king, but we made some wise investments early.
Yes.
It pushed you to.
You pushed me, yes.
But that helped us with the flexibility that we needed to have today.
Absolutely.
What's next?
So, for us, what's next is me learning on this journey. You have an advantage in the sense of industry knowledge and having years of experience in these networks, but now I'm invested. Now I have exposure to these same networks, and I'm learning the ins and outs of the business too, because it's our money, but it's my money too. That mindset, instead of like now taking ownership of something as opposed to being employed by entity. It's a different mindset.
Absolutely.
So that's probably number one that I'm learning and figuring out. Number two, again, starting somewhere with the things that interest me. Even if I don't see someone else doing it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean it can't be done. So things as simple as jotting down ideas that I have.
Wow.
I don't have anything to go with the idea yet, but whereas before I would ignore it and wouldn't come back to it, now I'm taking note. Now I'm going back and looking. Now I'm using these experiences to figure out how can I set these ideas in motion.
Starts with the dream, the imagination, and that's our highest level. We've all been taught to be at the worker level, using our physical capabilities, and then some of us get to the manager, some of us get to be great communicators, and then at the top level is imagination. As an entrepreneur, you get the opportunity to use your imagination. So what's next?
There are probably a number of answers to that question. But what's next for now is walking this journey with you, learning from your expertise. One of the things that I always admired about you was that you've always dreamt big. Like, there was nothing that you thought was impossible. If you put your mind to it, you always felt like you could do it. And I was drawn to that. You also had entrepreneurial spirit. I wasn't necessarily drawn to that, but I admired it. And in this transition, it's been difficult in the sense that these things that I admired so much about you are also part of the fears in making the transition to entrepreneurial space. But what I also have observed and what I know about you is like everything you touch turns to gold. Like, you operate in excellence. I've never seen you do it any other way. So it's only my expectation that that's what you would do here. You pride yourself on being a provider for your family, and not just in the here and the now, but preparing for our futures, understanding that we need to have, multiple streams of income. My mindset was not geared towards that. I knew that to be true of wealthy individuals. But for me, the security of my paycheck was enough. And you always were able to see beyond that. Now I get to see it in action. I get to see you not just for us, but helping others through Space and Equity, build assets and create new space.
There you go.
So, I'm here for this journey. You have been an excellent banker for more than 14 years. You have created networks in places where it wasn't conducive to creating the kind of networks that you created. And then use those networks not to be selfish and keep these secrets to yourself, but to connect people whose visions matched and lined up, who were like-minded and could go on to do great things that may or may not include you. But you want us as a people, you want us as a community to grow. So that's the part of the journey that I'm starting out with you.
I love you.
I love you too. So for anyone trying to make this transition, I won't lie, it's scary if you're built like me. I have put all my eggs in the basket of becoming a doctor, of practicing medicine. And even though I am highly trained and I am a great physician, this journey is teaching me that that's not all that I can do. I'm able to do other things. And I think sometimes we get trapped in that mindset of feeling locked in to one particular thing. So I'm excited about the opportunity to open my mind and grow and understand that I'm not just one thing.
Dr. D, Bass, all your many various names. Love having you. We're going to do this multiple times. The real Doc McStuffins. Come Correct podcast. Space and Equity, increasing assets and creating new space. Come correct, and they can't stop you.